want to go on to Eyes Wide Shut,
Sure.
1999. So that's, yeah, 12-year gap, right?
Longest gap, I think.
Yeah. I remember this movie being a big deal at the time, and I think it came out shortly after he died. I guess it would be one main reason, but I think it might have been a big deal anyway, because it was just one of those movies that kind of, just had all this buzz about the sexuality and stuff, and having Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman, an actual couple playing a couple in the movie with all these marital issues and very sexual undertow to the story and all that sort of stuff. So, trying to think if there's, well, no, you guys start talking about it. I think I only have a couple of points that I want to make on this. One will be to quote one of Phil's favorite critics, Stanley Kaufman, who I think nails some things about this movie very precisely, actually. But what are your guys' thoughts on it?
You go, you start, Steve.
I'll give you a couple of relevant quotes from David Thompson. I've got it here.
I know where this is going.
I'm going to skip down here. It took an attorney to make blah, 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 blah. I'll just, the last paragraph. Of course, Eyes Wide Shut is immaculate. Les Tompkins and Roy Walker did the decor. Larry Smith was the lighting cameraman, and Merritt Allen did the costume. The music is diverse, highbrow, and rather boastful, like an intellectual's name that tune. It is a shock to find that the film is only 159 minutes. Every frame feels like a prison.
So he remained
a fan
until death.
I guess I'll add, since I'll pretend like I'm at the level of these people. I'll quote myself about the sex, since you brought it up. The most sensual material, I'm quoting myself here now. The most sensual material in the movie consists of loving shots of Kidman's ass. A beautiful sight, to be sure, but maybe Kubrick could have spent a little less time on her ass and a little more time actually directing her performance. The epitome of sexuality for Kubrick, based on the evidence in Eyes Wide Shut, is best appreciated by the character of Mandy. Eva Herzigova was meant to play the role, but she objected to the many nude scenes. Normally, I'd say, whatever, I'm all in favor of nude scenes myself, but Herzigova knew what she was talking about. Mandy's two big scenes consist of a long segment where she is stretched out fully naked, almost dead from an overdose, and a second scene where she is dead on a slab, and we get to check out her hooters for an extended period. That's the idea of sex, a dead woman overdosed on dope.
Yeah, that's the awful scene, one of the awful scenes in the movie. And actually, I have some good things to say about the movie too, but that's terrible. How did he get away with that?
Kubrick does seem like this at times, like this, I don't know, 7-year-old boy with a dirty mind, right? Like, you think about some of the gratuitous nudity in his films, even in The Shining, the one gratuitous nude scene, really.
Well, in some, sorry, to mean to cut you.
No, I just said you could go through Clockwork Orange, and there's some nudity in every one of his films at a certain point, and it really does seem like it's not erotic.
Well, and you can't like always, maybe sometimes you could use the defense that it's like fulfilling what's going on in a character's head, the sort of character. But as someone pointed out in one review of Eyes Wide Shut, like, whatever you think of Tom Cruise as a character or as an actor or whatever, a person of his sort of stature, like a doctor in New York, a very cultured person, he would walk into that room and the first thing he would do was probably cover the woman up. Like,
Well, I probably like it a little more than you guys. Believe it or not, I've seen it about 4 or 5 times.
I've seen it 3.
And yet there's stuff I don't like it about at all. A couple notes. I said it's better to watch it as some weird dream like The Shining. It has so little relation to the actual world. I mean, it's just, you're watching this and it makes that any of this stuff would actually happen. I don't think you can watch it that way. Well, and I just kind of I like the look of it, and or just scenes of everything, again, the framing and they're at that party and Tom Cruise has those 2 women draped around him, and everything's framed so well. It's got some of that Steadicam feel to it from The Shining, or just walking the streets of New York. One of the things I hate in it, it's so embarrassing, and once you're aware of it, you become obsessed with it. Cruise has this habit of constantly repeating. Someone asks him a question, and he repeats the question.
Yeah.
You know. So what do you do?
That's the Kaufman point. That's the Kaufman
Yeah. Okay.
point.
Maybe he was the one that alerted it to
It's
me. Now, whenever
unbelievable how often that happens. It's unbelievable.
Would you like to come up with me?
Would I like to come up with you?
He does that 40 times during the film.
And then what's funny, and I almost wonder if it's a joke, at a couple points, some other people in the movie do it as well. I noticed, like there's at least one line where Nicole Kidman does it, and I actually laughed a little bit. I was like, oh, now they're like giving this to her.
Yes, you're right. I can think of when she does it. You're right.
I think we figured out how to cut 15 minutes out of the film right there.
Yeah.
We edited.
He really
I wanted to do that.
it.
I wanted to do that during this podcast when you guys would ask me a question.
Scott, what do you think of Eyes Wide Shut?
What do I think of Eyes Wide Shut?
What do I think of Eyes Wide Shut? He's
the way
such a
Cruise
simpleton.
does it too. It's like, oh God, yeah.
I really think she gives an excellent performance. You know, her big. I think Marcus compared her long monologue about the military guy at the hotel they were staying at to B.B. Anderson's monologue in Persona, or is that the one, or Al Pacino in The Godfather. Anyway, I think she's great, and when she's a little stoned and you know, she's obviously, he's right. She wants to have a fight, and the way she manages to turn that conversation into that, it's great. And I know I just like other things about it, the weirdness and whatever. I mean, the orgy is just, it's beyond ludicrous, and yet I find it kind of compelling. I don't know why. I can't defend that. I think I enjoy just some of the things that are so ludicrous. Think of all the things that happened to Cruise that night. How did he pack? He's home, I think, by 3 a.m. How could all this stuff, the costume, to drive out to who knows where? Yeah. It's like he's on a 24-hour jaunt there. Man, there was something else I was going to talk about, and I've lost it. But I like the Chris Isaak song a lot.
Oh, I didn't.
I think it's really sinister.
I like the scene. If the song felt a bit of a cliche to me or something, just like that bluesy. I almost wish they used one of the the Wicked Game song by Chris Isaak, with just
that
more mysterious or something. There's something about that blues. It was a good scene though. Like I would say it's one of those ones he used effectively, but I just don't like the song, and I couldn't get past it for some reason.
That's where they're at the mirror, and she's sort of looking at herself. I got to say something about the ending, because think of the way Stanley Kubrick ends his entire career. The last line of the film. That's kind of amazing and audacious. I don't know. Just what a way to end a career.
From a director who really didn't delve into sex that often.
No. Not really. I mean, did he ever have, is there an action? I guess this is it, really. No, there's Lolita too. I was going to say, what relationships? That's wrong. There are a few scattered about. But
there's parts
relationships
here and there,
are not what you think about. Male-female relationships are not what you think about. Cruise, he does one interesting thing with Cruise that I think might be a nod to The Big Sleep, where almost everybody Cruise comes into contact with is sexually drawn to him. From people at the orgy to at the party to
the woman whose husband just that was interesting. I like that scene actually.
It's funny in The Big Sleep, Bogart every woman he encounters, but it's kind of interesting here. And another ludicrous conversation is when Sidney Pollack, who is, I don't know if I like him in this or not. I like Sidney Pollack in some films a lot. I don't know if I count this one. There's something really kind of smug about there.
Yeah.
Anyway, the whole scene where around the pool table at the end, where he lets Cruz in on what's happened or what hasn't happened, that scene just goes on forever. And Cruz is repeating questions, and Pollock is repeating stuff. He's repeating. It's weird the way he frames everything. That scene is something else. It's compellingly weird and bad at the same time. I don't know. I can't even say I'm finished with the film. It's almost a weird kind of comfort for me.
Yeah, I think like it's an every 15 years movie for me for some reason. I am drawn back to it like now and then, but not, not something I'm dying. But
I like Satan Tango.
One other thing I like about it, the password to get into the orgy is basically my name. It's like Fidelio or something like that.
Oh, I never thought of that actually. Fidelio, that's right.
That's right.
That's funny.
Well, I don't have anything else to say about the film or about Stanley Kubrick, and I can't imagine ever having another conversation because we've said everything.
I did some calculations because I once said that Kubrick was the Rod Stewart of directors. Great start, and then what the hell? So I looked at the way I had rated his various ratings, being a very bizarre way to judge something, but at least it gives a sense of how I thought about them at the time. For the films he made until 1964, including Dr. Strangelove, the average rating I gave was 9.75 out of 10.
Wow.
All the rest of his movies, the average rating was 5.83.
Wow.
Now, all that says is what's my opinion on that. But I like to see that. And so it reminded me, oh, yeah, I really do think he's like Rod Stewart.
Well, I would dispute the Rod Stewart thing for a specific reason. But first thing I want to say, Stephen, one thing I found very interesting about the 2001 discussion is that I can't read you on that movie at all. That's not a criticism that you didn't speak eloquently about it or something. What I found interesting is that I thought you spoke very eloquently about 2001, but as a fan of the movie, like you do sort of eventually kind of, say what you didn't love about the movie. But I thought you were very insightful and eloquent about what you did love about the movie, which I found very interesting. And I know you have a history with it and you saw it at the time, and maybe it's a lot of lingering from that period or whatever. But as I was watching, I kept saying, wow, Steven sounds like he's almost as big a fan of this movie as I am, which is found very interesting.
Yeah, well, it is. It has a lot to do with I can remember what it was like at the time, and I can't disregard that. So it isn't one I want to watch over and over. But yeah, in fact, it might be that I don't think I ever watched it where I thought this sucks, because I kind of quit watching it again when it reached that point. So yeah, I have good memories of that one. It's also because as judged by my ratings, it was like there's Dr. Strangelove, and then 2001 is one of the pinnacles of his career for most people. But for me, it was the sign of the beginning of the decline. So even though I liked it, I don't think of it as being as good as the ones that came before it. I think of it as better than the ones that came after it. But in retrospect, it's kind of like a night on the town, or
I was going to say, what's the road?
Atlantic Crossing.
It might have been interesting if you could time shift Stanley Kubrick about 10 years ahead, if he had ever gotten involved in television, and done something like a Twin Peaks. I could see where that might have been appealing to him if some network threw a bunch of money at him and said, do whatever you want, give us a 10-part miniseries of some sort.
I just watched today a Steven Soderbergh movie, and it makes you think of it here because he made The Knick, which I can't remember if it was 2 or 3 seasons, but it was very Steven Soderbergh. He directed every episode, and it was like one of his movies, only it lasted longer. And yeah, Kubrick could have been something similar to that, because when it came to the time where there was prestige in that, in a way that he could say, I can do that.
Yeah,
He did it. David Lynch told the story in that video I watched with the directors talking about it. He said, Stanley Kubrick really made my career. when he was making Elephant Man, a couple of friends said, we were over at this other movie that Stanley Kubrick was making, and he says, come over to my house, I'll show you my favorite movie. So of course they go over to Stanley Kubrick's house, and he shows them Eraserhead.
Mm.
And David said,
Wow.
he said, once I heard that, I felt like I belonged in this world of directing.
Okay, so I didn't know that. When I mentioned that stuff about Twin Peaks, I didn't know that Lynch was one of the guys. So that kind of convinces me even more that there might be a connection there.
I wouldn't be surprised if you polled directors. I could see Stanley Kubrick actually coming out maybe right at the top. Because I do know, like Scorsese and guys like that, they do just revere him, whether there's any similarity.
You should check that last Sight and Sound poll. Yeah, directors have
the
different
directors do,
views.
yeah.
What do you mean the directors they voted?
They have they have a separate directors poll.
Oh, okay.
Directors love Fellini. You know, Fellini, I don't really get it all, but directors, and they love 8.5. 8.5 and Fellini in general always gets better with directors than with critics.
Yeah.
I mean, critics love it too, but there's still critics love it, and then directors sit up here.
This particular discussion and all of the discussions throughout this series have been delightful for me, because from the very beginning, I look forward to hearing from articulate people who like Stanley Kubrick, because I know how many of you are out there, and I feel like I don't get it. So Eyes Wide Shut, to me, that's the worst Stanley Kubrick movie I ever saw. Listening to you guys talk about it, it doesn't make me want to see Eyes Wide Shut again, but it helps me to understand why someone else would like it. And that's, I wish we'd have talked more about Barry Lyndon for that reason. Basically, the ones that I didn't like, if you guys liked it, I was fascinated and learning a lot from that. So that's part of the value of this whole series for me.
Stephen, never look to me for articulation. Rule number one.